naked shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Iggy Garcia here. Whoa. This episode 40 of Iggy Garcia Live. I want to welcome everybody to the show, those of you who can tune in. Hi, how are you? Frank and Angel, good to see you. Caleb, Jacqueline, and everybody who's popping in there. I'll say hi from time to time. Hopefully you can hear me, and hopefully we're back on track here. I've been off the air, and I've been kind of in my own little show, and rightfully so. Most of you who are aware that my mother passed away on February 28th, so I've been kind of taking a little break. I just wanted to get back on track. I want to get back into the flow and the rhythm as my mother would want me to, and also my father would want me to. And just trying to process through the, that thing called life, processing through the things that are going on in our lives and the things that happen to us. But I want to thank everybody for the outpour for my family and giving, your condolences for the losses we had. I lost my cousin earlier in February. I lost my mother. And shortly after my mother passed away, it was just like a week after, my grandmother died. And so it was, the people say it comes in threes. I don't like to think about stuff like that. But it did, I guess. But these people, they all lived their lives the best they could and however form they could. My grandmother was 91 and my mom was 71. And then my cousin, I think he was about 38, if I'm not mistaken. But I wanted to get back on track. I wanted to get back into the rhythm, back into the flow, back into what centers me, what brings me, joy, sharing my thoughts, my ideas, the things that roll around in my big head and share them with you and talk to you about, what's going on and what's happening. And, my family and I are, like I said, processing and working through, the grieving portions of our lives. And we'll probably be doing that for a while. And I get that. But we have to understand also, I have to understand that I personally, can't speak for my siblings, have to move forward into a space that centers me, a space that puts me in a good vibration and helps me to understand what's happening. Because I tell you, losing somebody that close to you, especially when you're close to them, because sometimes we lose friends and family and we're not close, so the pains and the feelings aren't necessarily as tight. But I felt these, this is like the first time I've actually felt something that was so, you just didn't think it would happen to you. I guess that's the reality for me. I didn't think that it was going to happen, and it was my turn. It was my moment to lose a loved one. And, we're going to lose loved ones all the time. We don't know when our last breath is. And I mean, that's the old saying that we've all heard. But, my mom was a beautiful person. She was a beautiful human being, as most people's moms probably are. And, she didn't say a whole lot. She didn't have to. And, I will look back and I watch the videos that I made with her and all the little things that I did with my 1 Minute Changes videos and just recording her and listening to her voice. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad that I took that time to share a part of my life with her as she did with all my other siblings and how we all shared and how we all went about. And, life is life. It continues, it goes on, it moves on. And whatever I learned from my mother, excuse me, I hopefully can carry out and share that with my children and share that with the world and share that with my friends and family. My father is doing pretty good. He's having a little bit difficulties at times. But we us kids try to keep them positive and try to keep him motivated. I think he does that more with us, try to keep us, focused, keeping moving forward as our mom would want. and she was our angel here on earth, and she did a lot for us. She was an immigrant, like many people who come to this country who immigrate here and whose ancestors have come here. She's and I'm also an immigrant. I wasn't born here. I was born in Peru. My sister Rosa, my brother Gino is first generation. He's the first one born here in the United States in our family, then followed by Bicey and Liberty, of course. And so, we all came together. We came to the point to get to try to understand one another. And here's a cool thing. The cool thing that happened is that us kids had to come together. We had to come to a place where we could agree to disagree, agree to agree, because we were kind of apart, like most families are. We have our moments where you split away, and you have time where you're just not in sync with another. And we had that. We were able to move into a place where we can work together. But there was a lot of challenges in that, and that's why I labeled this topic life, because life is it happens with or without you. It doesn't wait. It just moves forward. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, or a communist or a socialist or whatever. Life just moves. If you're a peace-loving person or a hating person, life does its thing. It moves and continues with or without you. You're either in the flow with life and moving into the rhythm with her, or you get left behind. Or you get left behind on the bank, or your boat sinks and you have to swim. But you're still in life, but you have to find a way to navigate the struggles that happen to you. Now, as common as it is, sometimes people move, from places of frustration, places where they're grieving. And hi, Blue Hawk, and hi, Adriana, hi, everybody who's listening. We move from places where our emotions become a little more raw, where we become a little bit more vocal about what we're feeling, what's happening inside of us. And so this is what happened. We got to a point where we were trying to work through stuff, where we say, hey, let's just move on and forget everything that happened to us. And, that worked for about a good day. And then I had a problem with that. And I'll be honest with you. And I mean, on the majority of the time, I'm the most positive person. And to actually be the one who found your mother after she died peacefully in her sleep, to walk in and know that she had transitioned into the next existence was really, it caught me off guard. I was just, I had seen, I have found, people have died, weeks later, days later, but to find your mother and to see her there and to remember all the little things that you do, the little nuances that you would do with her, how you would joke around and play. And then when I found her, her eyes were kind of still open. So I thought she was still asleep. I came back down, and then I came back again, maybe 15, 20 minutes later. And then at that point, when I saw her, I knew she was gone. I didn't want to believe it. I ran upstairs when the apartment we're working upstairs. My dad and I work in the property management business outside of the work I do. And I told my dad, I said, I think Mom's dead. I think she died. He's like, no, he screamed. He's like, no. And, I never seen my dad run so fast down there. He says, call 911. I called 911. 911 came. And, they wanted me to perform CPR. And the police this happened so fast. The police came in at the same time as the door was open. And he's like, he looked at me. He's like, she's gone. He already knew. He'd been around. She was cold and warm in some places. No, I only share this because this is a way for me to process too and maybe help somebody else. And it was, my dad's really, he cares about other people's feelings. He's like, don't call anybody right now. Just wait till they get off work. But of course I was already on it, and because I needed my siblings to know, and I called them and they all came when they could. And we said our goodbyes in her apartment that she stayed. But it was a bizarre world. It was just like, wow, this isn't happening. I can't believe this. But, she died peacefully. And that's the way I want to remember her, dying peacefully. that her last breaths were, were in her home, not in a nursing home. But the last person who saw her and the last person who actually witnessed her give something back to him was my father. Because when we got back from the store from getting the supplies we needed, she smiled at him, gave him this biggest smile, and she just looked at him, and he didn't give it much thought, but that was his last memory of her, of being alive, and he holds that in his heart dearly. So it was powerful. It was a powerful, powerful message. And like I said, we're all processing however we need to process. And I know many of you on Facebook, friends of mine, and acquaintances, and just Facebook friends I've never met. Some of you have lost family members too, and it's a hard time, and you all grieve how you need to grieve. I'm not here to tell you how to grieve, but I suggest if you need someone to talk to, and you can call me or you can call the groups that I'm involved with and work with. Don't think you're alone. You're not alone. It feels like you're alone sometimes. It feels like you're by yourself. And you kind of regress back to that little kid state sometimes when you're like going, you remember your parents. You remember when they were so strong and so powerful and when they could just do anything. And, you were just like, wow, my parents, I love my parents. And then you see them, changing physically, spiritually, emotionally, and, getting closer to spirit as they age. At least my parents were doing that. Not that they weren't before. I just noticed more. Maybe I'm more in tune myself. Who knows? But I was really proud of my mom, what she did on this planet, and the things that she instilled in my brothers and sisters and myself, and even in my dad, and even my half brother and sister, how much they loved my mom. That was probably one of the amazing things, that she loved unconditionally to some extent, to some degree, because that's a hard thing to do sometimes, to love someone unconditionally, with the faults and the things they have. Because we're human, we're flawed, that's the beauty about being human. Our flawedness is what creates us, what helps us move and learn from. If we were just up to, perfect, how would we gauge ourselves? How would we know? The only thing we can do is work from the next place where we were. And, my mom is, in my belief system, she's everywhere. She's in heaven. She's around us. Our ancestors never die. Her presence, per se, I'm not going to see her like I would see, somebody down the street, walking down the street. But she's with me, and I appreciate that. And I'm glad that she is close by. I just think about this little polio girl, this girl who had polio, who couldn't really walk with one of her legs, who came to this country to make a better life for her family with her husband. And she did. And she did some amazing things with her disability, or differently able than other people. She wasn't one that could play basketball with you. She wasn't one that could, run with you. But you know what? She could cook a storm. She could cook a storm. And she was amazing. And, she can crochet. She could knit. She did things other people probably wish they could do. Some people can run and some people can do it all. But she just was an amazing woman. And, I'm proud of her. I'm proud of to be her son. I'm proud to be that I was able to be, put in her little tribe of people, that we had to learn some good lessons there. But she's beautiful, and she's moving on, and she's everywhere. And now the focal point is, family and my father and all the things that we need to work on. And, and I'm here to share with you also, I know sometimes we don't always get along with the people who we are closest to, our siblings, our significant others, whatever. But I'm here to give you a suggestion, and I want to share this with you, is to create a family of your own. Most of you probably have, most of you do, or have created many families. Creating families is one of the most beautiful things you could do. Creating family with new people. You don't have to be from the same blood, the same parents or whatever. You can create new emotions, new feelings, new adventures, new things with total strangers, people that you've just met or people that you've known. But it's up to you. It's up to you to find those people. And those people are looking for you as much as you're looking for them. The point is to have discernment and to be able to say, okay, is this a good fit for me or not? We always have to be on guard too, because when we release our emotions and our feelings and we give them to somebody else, we also give them some type of open invitation to, work with us, move with us, and stuff. So we have to be careful with that aspect too. But making your new tribe, your new friends, your new family is vitally important. I think it's very important. Outside of your regular family, you should have friends and family. You should have other people that you can, throw ideas at, talk to, hang out with, be with, creating healthy limits and boundaries with them, of course, with anybody, with any relationship. You want to create healthy limits and boundaries. You don't want to just throw yourselves out and just expect, you're just going to be embrace, learn. So life is what? Life is what we make it. Okay. Life is whatever you can think of. Life is creativity, is beauty, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all that stuff that goes with it. So when you're ready to move through life, and you're going to move through life with or without, permission, it's going to move you. It's going to change you. It's going to do things. But here's the thing. When you're moving through life, you have the opportunity to make a great and amazing experiences as you're going. Okay. If you're not ready to move into spaces with certain people that you're really close with and people who, are in your life, then don't. So many of us, we compromise ourselves. So many of us compromise ourselves that we have to make up, we have to forgive, we have to forget. You forgive and you forget when you're ready. You move into that space when your heart tells you when you need to move into that space. And and if you never move there, you never move there. I'm not here to say it's good or bad to stay in that energy. But so many times we move into these energies that we're not even ready to move into. So many times people tell you, well, I don't want to be around people who are negative and people who are too light worker or too dark, there's always an excuse. And that's fine. That's good. I'm glad at least you know where you don't want. So, but when you're ready to move into the space, do it. If you're not, don't. Don't do it because someone else is to make them happy. Because somebody else says, I won't be your friend if you're not going to, you have things that have happened to you. You have things that have occurred to you in your life that you're still working through. You're processing. Some of it's on a subconscious level. Some of it is, isn't a conscious level. Some of it's so buried we don't even know, but we react to it. We respond to it. And all of a sudden we act a certain way and we behave a certain way. But life is what you make it. Life is not one of those things that waits for you. People won't wait for you. Friends won't wait for you. Family won't wait for you. You won't wait. You don't wait for people. Now, most people are pretty, passive aggressive. Maybe they're, they're one way a little bit. And then other people are just really aloof, about their emotions and feelings. I find that you have to find a balance in how you work with it. If you're cold, cut and dry, that's fine. If that works for you, fine. If you're kind of want to play the fence a little bit, then that's fine. I mean, because I don't know what works, but something works for everybody. It works. Something works, and you have to find what works for you. And you do, really, because I know that I've complained and I've bitched about stuff, and said, hey, nothing's going my way. But then I have to do something about it, right? It's just like everybody who's on this podcast. Everybody in this podcast has to make a decision. Hey, am I going to move forward in life or am I just going to wait? You have to live life. When the right players come around, they'll come around, period. When the right people show up, you'll know. You'll know when the right people show up. Because it's always divine timing. Spirit always sends you the right people at the right time, at the right moment. I've always found that to be true. When I'm the most down that I can possibly be, somebody says something, someone posts something, somebody shares something. Just think how far back, that's not too far back because, what was life like for you before Facebook? What was your life like before Instagram, before Snapchat, before all this social media stuff? What was your life like? How did you meet people? What did you do? What was the common denominator that moved you into space to meet new people? Did you go out? Did you dance? Did you go to the church? Did you go to a civic you know, meetings? Did you go to concerts? What did you do? What was it that you did? Is social media one of those things that, enhances your, communication with the outside world? I've met some amazing and beautiful people on Facebook and Instagram. Not so much on Snapchat because it's a whole different platform, but here, especially on Facebook, I have friends from all over the world. I don't know if I would have ever met these people outside of these, digital walls. But these digital walls also have, they have issues too. Some things that you have to work through. But I find it very beautiful that, we have this technology. It's like having pen pals. Remember when we were growing up? I don't know if you did this in school, and those of you who were online, you remember when we had pen pals? Those of you who had pen pals? Pen pals are amazing because these are people you had no clue who they were, but yet you wrote letters to them. We actually wrote letters. We actually wrote to somebody across the ocean. We wrote a letter to somebody who lived in Africa or Greece or Peru, wherever. And then they'd write you a letter back, and then you communicate that with them, but you had to wait. There was anticipation. That's how the life was back then. We had to wait. It was almost like creating a fine wine. I had a friend who lived in Russia. I have no idea what happened to that person because I was in grade school, but I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought it was amazing to communicate with somebody who is not in my family, totally on the other side of the world, has a total different look on life, lives under a whole different set of scenarios and in conditions outside of what I lived. Here I am, a poor immigrant boy from Peru, and God knows what they were like. And here I'm learning how to speak English, and yet I'm sending a letter to a person in Russia. I don't remember the kid's name anymore. But, it was fun. It was one of those cool things. It was one of those cool stories. But now I have tons of pen pals here. I got Terry, I got Heather, and I got Adriana, and I got Deb, and, all these are these are kind of like pen pals. These are people who, and some of these people I know in life, in real person, so which is even cooler. That's what's so cool about social media. Social media is one of the things that, we can use it or abuse it. But it's the way of the world now. It's part of who we are. It's part of how life has morphed, the evolution. There's a type of evolution, like a digital evolution. Some people have chosen to step away, and which is fine. But they'll find another way to communicate, another way to bring in people into their lives. Or maybe they just want to be alone and quiet in solitude, which is good. But I find that social media is one of those things that it's like anything. You have to put limitations on it, and you have to give it a little bit of a break from time to time. There is another world, and I mean I'm not preaching anything you don't already know. There is another world out there outside these digital walls that we navigate from time to time. I find it funny. This is a cool story. This is a true story here. What's happening here right now? I'm sitting here in my office at my dad's house, and I'm looking at a board. I needed to find something to like shield the sun from coming, just to take down the glare a little bit because I look like this little whiter than I really am. So I'm looking at this billboard, those things you get those at the stores, like cardboard, and you do your projects on it. What happens to be my sons from high school or middle school. I don't remember what it is, but it's a story about Pelé. It's about Pelé, and I think it's really cool. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but let me see if I can. So you can see that. I'm going to flip it around. And if you see on my phone, I'm just showing you a little bit. I'm looking at this storyboard that my son created, my son Dante. And it talks about Pelé. Edison Arantes Nacimiento, born October 23, 1940, in Tres Cocociones, Brazil. This shows, it talks about Pelé. It talks about Pelé, one of his heroes, and I'm thinking, I remember seeing this, but I never really looked at it. And shame on me, Actually, it's not by my son. It's from my daughter, Markel. I see the name now. I take that back. My apologies to my daughter. It's by my daughter, Markel, the god of soccer, before Pelé became professional. It talks about his struggles. It talks about how he had to go through stuff. It says before Pelé became a professional soccer player, he lived in Brazil. His parents did not have very much money, so Pelé didn't attend school until he was in sixth grade. After he finished sixth grade, he did not go to school anymore. While Pelé was not in school, he played soccer every single day. As Pelé got older, he started to play for neighborhood teams, and his dad, Dolfidino Steen, when Pelé got to about 15 years of a professional soccer player, Waldemar de Brito saw him playing soccer and noticed how amazing he played. So later on in the year, he was asked to try out for the professional soccer team called Santos in Santos, Brazil. After trying out for the team, the coaches thought he was good enough to play for the team. But then they came back and told him that he made a mistake and that he ended up. So they threw him off the team. They put him back on the team. So that's kind of funny. So I'm looking at this board, and this is my child who put something together. And, I don't know. I was supposed to find it today for some reason. And so the universe is reminding me, about my daughter who's here, who's going to be going to Korea, South Korea, April 16th. Her husband's stationed in the Navy, and they're going to transfer them there. They'll be there for 3 years. So I'm not going to see my grandson or granddaughter for 3 years. And so it's an amazing time. And so I'm looking at this story, how Pelé moved through his life, before he was a professional player, and then when he became a professional player, and then what Pelé's doing after. Today, Pelé, at this time, he was 66, so he's a little bit older now. But still, it's life, what we choose to do in life, what we're going to move into the spaces. We could stay in our negative and in our dysfunctional energies, if you like, or we can decide to move through them and wade through them as we progress through the things we choose. Life will always give us things to work through. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you've been abused. It doesn't matter if you weren't fed. You still have to move through life. You cannot stay in the same energy long term. If you do, it'll change you. You will change. It won't necessarily change, but it will change you. You will find a way to navigate it. So as I'm looking at the storyboard that my daughter created that's in front of me. It's amazing where her mind was and what she was thinking, what she was going on. Of all my kids, she's not really one who was really into soccer, but something was important to her. Something was powerful about this message. And for me, it's 2018, and I'm not sure when she did this because I don't see it. I'll have to guess this was in middle school. But whatever, for some reason, Spirit wanted me to see this storyboard. And this storyboard conjured up a lot of feelings and emotions about what our kids do, how they perceive, and what they move on. Now she has her 2 kids, and what she shared today when I was talking to her, and my little sister Liberty was talking with everybody. We were on the thread together, and she was talking about having kids and how she was nervous about having children, and how she regretted that she didn't have kids while our mother was alive. So we had to coach her through that, not to feel too bad about that, because a part of her, kind of was feeling a little bit, discouraged about that. But she found a way to communicate to Liberty and to Markel. And the Markel goes, and this is a good compliment. This is one of the biggest compliments you can get from somebody. And my sister goes, "You're wise beyond your years, Markel. How do you know so much?" And Markel, she goes to Liberty, she goes, "Well, it's not that I know anything. It's, she goes, in life you learn because of the people before you, people ahead of you." She goes, "If you know anything about my dad, he taught me this. He told me just to listen." He says, and he shared with me his ideas. So everything I'm telling you is somewhat from my dad, some insights from my father. And she's like, "Oh." And, I sat there at the table listening to that conversation with GV and Markel and how they shared that story to Liberty today. And I was just like, and I got, how you get a little tear in your eye, you a little bit, you're not want to cry, but you're just like, I'm not going to cry. But it made me proud to know that I make a difference in their life, that it's important for me to know what I'm speaking. What comes out of my mouth is valuable. What I say is important. It's a prayer. You guys have probably heard me say every word you speak is a prayer. So however you're praying, we're always praying to the universe. We're always asking. We're always speaking or talking about something. So it was a good moment. And, then we started talking and, we got into the subject because I found it really interesting because I have another friend, most of you, who does a show with me, Adriana. She's just taking a little break today. But she would always tell me, you got to be like the wise old owl sitting on the branch or the oak tree branch or whatever. But, I get the story, the wise owl listening. And I was always telling my kids, it's about listening. It's about effective listening. It's about knowing when to speak or not to speak and knowing when to pause and to carry on the conversation. And I found that really powerful. I found that powerful because I have to listen to my own advice sometimes, to listen and to share when I need to share and to know when to share. And so I found that really beautiful that my daughter was able to learn something from me personally. And I'm sure she's learned from other family members as well. But that's always been a message my dad taught me too, is to listen. And then when you feel like it's appropriate to speak, you speak. If you don't feel like, then you don't. You learn a lot from not blabbing all the time and just shooting off the mouth, And then you probably heard people say, well, you're a good listener. You just talk too much. No, I'm just joking. Give me a time to say something. But the point is, we listen. And then when we hear that pause, when someone invites us into that space to share, we speak. And then when we have spoken what we need to speak, we allow the person to talk again. We don't do that anymore. We don't do that a lot. Everybody's so busy. Everybody's so excited to share what is important in their lives that they forget about the person sitting across from them, that message that they want to share. So effective listening is a lost art. It's like in soccer, the art of getting open is a lost art. Kids today don't know how to get open in soccer or in sports very well. Everybody just wants to go to the dunk in the basket or shoot a goal and that's it. Speaking's the same way. We have to know when to open our mouth and when to share and when not to share, and digest the information and not be so anxious to share what's on our mind that we didn't even listen to what the person said. That happens a lot. I know that I've been in that situation, not on purpose, and so have you, where you had something you wanted to share so bad that you totally forgot about what the other person was actually saying. So it has nothing to do in the context of what you were talking about. And the person looks at you and goes, are you listening to me? And you're like, yeah, I am. But it's all about cueing. Maybe you should write it down, when you're talking to somebody. Okay, I'll come back to that note. Okay. Before I forget, hold on. You know what I'm talking about. But I want to say hi to everybody. I want to say Rachel, Susan, Heidi, Beth, everybody's been popping in and out. But life is yours. Life is yours to harness. Life is yours to go, hey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It took me, oh, there you go. Adriana says, a wise old owl sat on an oak, and the more he sat, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. And that's why he's a wise old bird. Boom, there it is. Thanks, Adriana, for sharing that. Appreciate it. And those of you who don't know Adriana, she's my good friend. And we do radio shows together. But, yeah, life is just, life is what you make it. Life is what you make it. And what are you making? Because I guarantee you, if you're not making in life what you want to make, someone else is going to make it for you. And if you're okay with that, someone else making decisions and making your soup or, whatever you want to call it. In Spanish, make your sopa, then, you're fine. You don't need to listen to this. But if you're not, and if you're not content, you're not happy with how life is moving, then you got to figure out how I need to change some ingredients in my soup. Do I need to add more spice to it? Do I just need to throw a damn soup out and start over? Sometimes throwing things completely out might be the ideal situation. Other times you might be just adding some chicken to the soup or adding, some flavoring to the soup. First of all, you gotta ask yourself if you like soup, because if you don't like soup, then you ain't gonna like anything. This just, you know what I'm saying? It's just a metaphor. You add to your life, you add to the pot. Here's the cool thing about soup. The reason you want to use soup is because soup is one of the things that everybody can add something to it. Everybody can add something to that pot of soup. It could be a rock, it could be a tomato, it could be carrots, it could be anything. And that's what makes life so beautiful, is that we can make it whatever we want. And we can change it anytime we want. It doesn't have to be stagnant. It doesn't have to be stale. It doesn't have to be saltless. I come from a belief system where all my relations means everybody's connected somehow in some way. That we all come from some source. We all come from the same place. That we all come from the soil, the dirt. My granddaughter had the shirt that says, I think it says "Eat Dirt." I think that was really cool. It's from the food bank. Meaning is, what we grow in the dirt comes out, and it's from the dirt. It's a beautiful shirt. So I believe that we're all connected somehow or another. Now, sometimes that connection is not fun, and it's not fun to look at. It's not fun to, bring to light. And then other times it's amazing and beautiful. You're like, oh my God, it's amazing. Isn't that beautiful? Blah, blah, blah. Hey. And other times like, oh my God, I don't even know that person. I have nothing to do with that person. We have nothing in common. Blah, blah. Life is a series of, I want to call it, those carnival mirrors, more than just a mirror. You know what I'm saying? I think we get stuck too much in the mirror aspect of, people mirroring back to us. I think it's more like it's like a carnival mirror. Okay. And those mirrors where you have makes you taller and makes you thinner and makes you wider. And then really when you're looking at this mirror, you're looking at distorted versions of reality, distorted versions and perceptions of how other people may perceive you and how you perceive them as well, back and forth. So the mirror aspect is really how we project onto people what we see and how we feel about them. So if somebody's having a bad day, you're there as the watcher, the observer, to say, well, that person's having a bad day. That doesn't mean you're having a bad day. It's just aware of they're having a bad day because you've had bad days. Now, the question and where the separation is how you deal with that emotion at that time. Do you stay in anger? Do you stay in happiness? Do you filter through and do you move out of it? Or did you stay in it for a day or an hour or whatever? Life is like a carnival of mirrors. You look behind you, there's the back of you, there's a side of you, and there's all of this around you. And so everybody's having emotions and feelings at the same time. Everybody, the whole world. So that's the carnival mirror. When you look in the carnival house, you look in the mirror, you're not alone. It feels like you're alone sometimes. It feels like, damn it, I'm by myself out here. And nobody gives a shit about me. No one gives a damn about me. But you know what? They don't. Most of the time. And if they do, it's because you caught them in a place of empathy, in a place where they can share their feelings about you. And your problem is much worse than theirs, so they can relax and say, oh, well, at least my problem ain't that bad. But you know what? Even when people are in a place of anger and frustration, we find a piece and a part that we can resonate with them, and we share together. We talk together. Okay, so I find that really beautiful and amazing that we are able to. That's why when you see people who can volunteer and help people, even people who have nothing can help other people, is because they find a place in their heart and of compassion, a place of, that they can resonate and they can put their energy into. Because we usually don't do things for other people to get something back. We do things to help other people because it's the right thing to do. And it's because it's innate inside of us. It's in us. It's something's inside of us that I don't know what it is. But we can't watch people suffer as hard as we want to. As hard as you walk past a homeless person, you don't want to give them anything. You have your reasons why you don't want to give them anything. There's a reason that you don't want to give them something. And it's usually because your intuition says, if you help them, you're going to enable them. And if you enable them, they're never going to get out of their situation. That's usually how it goes. Well, here's the thing. Most homeless people don't have addresses, so they can't work. So it's difficult for them. And some of them are vets, somebody who lost their homes. It depends. The stories are endless. But something happens up here where they just disconnect from the way society functions. You know, they find a way to survive. They find a way to live. And that's the way life moves them. Life, sometimes we think homeless people have it bad. And maybe they do when it's below zero, okay? Because we're warm and hot in our little houses and they're out there suffering. I've seen homeless people, as you have, in the cold weather, already asleep at 7 o'clock in the evening to stay warm so they can get up early enough to, go rummage through things that we discard. Life is interesting because we have so many parallels of life. We have so many things that are happening, subcultures of life in front of us that we don't even see it. There are rich people who have no food in their fridge. There are people who live in poor neighborhoods who have tons. There are homeless people who are happier being homeless because they don't have to pay any bills. It's really how you project and how you judge and how we put forth on people what's important. But what's important for you? What is the thing that drives you? What's the thing that gets you up in the morning? What is that thing that will move you into the space and move you into that place to make you do the things that you wouldn't necessarily do? Are you happy with the life you have? Are you happy, 9 to 5? Most people would say yes. But most people would say yes and no. I wish I could do something else. But that's life. Life there's been a system created for us, and that's why we live the way we do. Like I said, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm here to remind you to reflect and look back. And maybe you're okay with that. Maybe it's all right. But there's another segment of you who it's not satisfying. The way we live today is not enough. I read a story of my friend Mark Matheny. Happy birthday to him. We had a little birthday party for him yesterday. He sent me about a man who left his family, left his 2 kids and his wife to become naked and live as a squirrel out in the woods. I kid you not. It's on my timeline. Go ahead and read it. It's a pretty interesting story. He was the man who thought he came back as a human being and he'd rather be a squirrel. And I thought about that and I'm going, okay, that's interesting. So what would that look like? I was kind of curious about that. But that's where we're at. That's I don't know if it's a condition. I don't know if it is. But there's something there that drove this man to do something that's out of the ordinary. Something he's just done. I don't want to be human anymore because humans are hard on humans. Animals in the animal kingdom, yeah, they have their issues too. But, to actually want to go live naked in the woods and gather nuts and live like a squirrel, there's something going on in our lives. There's something happening. It's a type of shape-shifting. It's us manifesting into something that we would rather be than we are. Is he skirting from his responsibilities? I don't know. Some would say he's not, he's skirting from his responsibilities, raising his family or whatever. Or he doesn't want to pay his bills. Who knows? But we have to trust that this man wants to do something different with his life. So I ask you, what do you want to do different with your life? Today, I went to the park. I took off my shoes and I walked barefooted for about 2 miles in the park on the grass. And everybody was looking at me like I was like from some weird planet. Like, it was like, the second time around, the people were still in the park. They were waving, finally. I think they were understanding what I was doing. I mean, it's not like I'm being a creeper with my shoes off. Well, who's going to creep in the park with the shoes off? You're not going to get too far creeping with you. But the point was, I wanted to connect with Earth. I wanted to feel the Mother Earth beneath my feet. That's what I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel those blades of grass. And from time to time, have one of those little pricks, pricklies sting me. And it did, And I just loved the feeling of the contours of the ground touching my feet. And every step I made, it just massaged my foot. And I felt better because when I had my shoes on, my foot was hurting. It was hurting more than and I walked barefooted for almost 2 hours. And I meditated in the park today. And I sat there by the trees. And everybody just looked around. It was kind of odd. But then eventually I just kind of faded into the stuff just the same way. But when I walked on the grass and I felt, it pushing up against my feet, I can feel the energy coursing through my body. I could feel, the love that we have. And sometimes when we have our gomas, our shoes, the rubbers, it insulates that energy from flowing through us. And so it was a good feeling. I walked all the way back to the house barefooted down the neighborhood, which was a mile away from the park. And I was walking on everybody's grass. But it felt so good to be reconnected because I had been so disconnected since my mother passed away. I got into my own little box, my own little world, and I kind of got lost in there and frustrated because I thought I could have done better, more for her. And my family told me that it was okay. You did what you had to do. There was nothing you could do. I have no regrets. But when I walked on the earth today, again, for the first time, it felt great. And these little kids I could see this little kid, because I had my headphones on, I was listening to some things in there. And the little kid goes, "Grandma, why does that guy have his shoes off?" And she started smiling. She goes, "It's because he wants to feel the grass beneath his feet." And he's like, "Oh, can I take my shoes off?" And I don't know if he did or didn't because I didn't look back. But it was funny, though. It was beautiful. It was beautiful to walk like that today and to feel that energy. And if you look on I don't know if I put it on my timeline or not, but if you look, I try to make the peace sign because it records your pattern. So what I did is I made a circle and then I cut across, I went around, went to the middle, went back and went up and try to make the peace sign. I might have to make it bigger. I'm going to work on that because I'm going to try to make shapes like that, like hearts and stuff, with my walking patterns at the park. I think that would be really cool. So look for that because that would be really fun. But yeah, life is how we experience it. Life is the experiences that we have gathered. We all have a destiny, and that destiny is one day we return back to our Creator, return back to the universe, return to back wherever you feel you return back to. But in the meantime, you can create any kind of experience you like, anything that your heart's content. And don't believe that you can't, because you can. Some things will take more work than others. Some things will take a lot of planning. Some things will just fall in your lap. Some things are just right in front of you. You don't see them. Just imagine like a little ant walking through the blades of grass. He doesn't even see us. And even if we stood right next to him, he still can't see us. We're the same way. There's magic all around us. There's things happening all over us and around us constantly. There's hawks and eagles and birds flying over us. There's animals burrowing beneath our feet. Ants, snakes, groundhogs. All that stuff is happening beneath us and at exactly the same time. It's amazing the things that happen in this world. When we have the eyes to hear, the mouth to speak, the ears to listen. With our eyes, we can hear, see, listen, talk, everything. We can do everything. With our ears, we can hear, speak, talk. With our mouth, we can see, talk, taste, feel. Our senses are not just directed one way. Just because we see doesn't mean that's all we see. That's all we visualize. Just because we speak isn't the only thing we speak. Sometimes we hear things we can actually communicate with our ears, even through touch and feel. The outside world and the inside world, we bring it to us, and it stimulates us, and we touch it. So don't think because your eyes don't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't hear it. Because you can create things with your eyes. You can see things. In your life, you can manifest anything, good and bad. But you have to have a plan for manifestation. Manifestation just doesn't happen per se, It's because sometimes it's like you have a car. You manifest a car. Great, you got a car. But you have to manifest the gasoline. You got to manifest the oil. You got to manifest the transmission fluid. You got to manifest that you're taking care of everything, or you won't have a car. Life is the same way. We can manifest things, but we also have to manifest the small things in order to get the bigger things. Manifestation in life, in creating life, is creating that energy flowing. And that energy flowing is knowing that we also have to think about the small components. We don't think about the small components sometimes. We just discard them because in life we're taught to think big and grandiose, and that's what we're going to do it. And that's the way we're going to be, and that's the place we're going to go. And that's okay. You can do that. But the small things are just as important to manifest. Okay? It's just one of those things that you have to do. Because what happens is when you manifest into the small stuff, that's called vibrating. You're vibrating into that energy. You're allowing and you're attracting that vibration. Let me ask you a question. When you're mad and pissed off at the world and you're angry and everything, what seems to happen for some people? Anybody can just throw it out there on the board if you can. What happens? Okay. What happens, in my perception and in my experience, is you get more of that stuff. You just get more. You attract more of that. We talk about attraction, and that's what happens. You get more of that. But Iggy, I share good positive energy with everybody, but nobody seems to pay it back. It's not about getting it back. Okay, it's not about getting it back. When you vibrate in the good energy, in a good feeling, it's not about you. It's about what you're going to give to the world, and then the world you'll receive back. It happens that way. That's why I try to vibrate in a higher frequency of positive energy, because I would rather people see that and receive that from them than the other stuff. I could be angry. I have a lot of millions of reasons to be angry about a whole bunch of stuff. My life could be consumed just in anger and frustration and all the pissy crap that happens to me. But why? Why put my energies there when I can put it somewhere else in a whole another ball game, a whole another arena? And it's not that I'm deflecting from life. It's not that I'm trying to be, aloof from creating from responsibility. No. It's because I learned at a very young age, if I'm negative and I'm PO'd and pissed off all the time, it just brings me more of that crap. The more that you are, the more you receive from. It's just like war. When we protest war, we get more war. When we march for peace, hopefully we get more peace. I get more peace. It's not that I'm looking for peace for the world. I'm looking for inner peace for me. If I find inner peace for me, then other people go, well, he's a good example of what inner peace is. If you're become a good example, good ambassador of what peace and love is in life, you're going to get more of it. Most of you who are on this live stream or on Blog Talk Radio, most of you guys get good stuff. You have good friends. You got a good tribes. Number one, because part of you are my tribe. It's our tribe, and we resonate kind of closely. But as soon as one of us veers off a little bit, and I'm one of those people who like to veer off on purpose, because I also want to see where I'm at. Some of you have seen some of my posts that I don't always agree with all my love and light friends about stuff, because in my life I also want to question the things that are in front of me. That's just my nature as a Sagittarian, half animal, half man. I'm just like that. I don't think everything's cut and dry. No, not necessarily for me. But you know what? In life, you attract like energies. Just look around the 5 close friends you have. It'll tell you exactly kind of who you are. And here's a good test. Ask yourself, the 5 closest friends you have, is that what you want? Do you like that? Are those 5 good friends good for you? Because they will influence you, and you will influence them. You will back and forth like a gyro. The ones that use. And you know what happens when a gyro falls off? It does this, and then it falls over. That's where the test is with people. How you respond to the discomfort. How you respond to your ego. Can you? I don't know. I would hope you have some kind of way to do that. But our ego's there to protect us. Our ego's there to remind us. Our ego just has to relax from time to time and trust that we're making the right decisions. The friends, the 5 close friends that you have are where your influence is coming from right now. So choose wisely. Choose your friends wisely. And you don't have to get stuck with 5 friends you have. You can create 5 more friends. And then you create 5 more friends. See, that's the rub right there. You're not stuck with just 5 people, my friends. You can have 5 more people over here, 5 more, and you don't have to have 5. You can have 10. You can have 1, 2. But you're going to influence each other. You're going to all move energy. You're all going to have things that you like and dislike about each other. That's normal. That's just how it is. When you create these new families, these new pods of people and new pods of friends, you're going to have issues. And you want to have some kind of discomfort too, because it ain't perfect. Because if it was perfect, then you don't need anybody. You don't need your friends then. If you're all doing the same thing, agreeing on the same thing, and you can't move the same thing, then why you have them? You have them there so you can also have a point of reference, a way to reflect back and look at where your life is, a support system for yourself, people who love you unconditionally, people who understand you. My 5 pod of friends are amazing guys and girls. They're cool people. And when I need something, they're there. There's no question. See, that's the thing. With my 5 friends, if I need something, there's always going to be one more dominant in the group. That's just how it is. But if I need something and they can help me, they will. That's how I know that pod of 5 friends is good for me. Because without hesitation, they're on it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying in life. Sometimes in your own family pods, and you don't even get that. If you do, you're lucky. But life is what we make it. Life is how we stream it. Life is the beautiful things and the ugly things. Life is how we paint our picture. Life is how we paint, the things around us. Your life is meant to be enjoyed. Life is not meant to be frustrated and locked away in a room. And a lot of us do that. Stay within the confines of 4 or 5 walls, But the thing is, open the door, open the window, step out, crawl through the window, go out the door, go out the back door. There's more than one way to get out of your head, get out of your mind, find new relationships, find new friends. So I want to leave you guys with those things to think about, that life is yours to make it, break it, fix it, make it, break it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, keep it, do whatever you want. Life is your cake. Life is your soup. Life is your dinner. Life is your supper, whatever you want to call it. Life is what you want to make it. There aren't excuses. If you're happy with what you got, then don't worry about it. Then when you're ready to transition and move into the next incarnation of who you're going to be, then do it. We're constantly evolving. We're constantly moving. We're constantly becoming better. And then, that's all we have. That's all we can ask from one another, is to do better. And the people around us to do better. And love them for who they are. Not for what they can give you. Not for what they can do for you. But, honor and respect each other. And, just embrace what we have as humans. Our life is so short. When my mom passed away, I realized how short life was. I didn't have that experience, but now I do. I have that experience. I don't recommend that for everybody, but that experience is real. That moved me in my core to lose somebody that close to me. And I want to thank you all for listening, all of you for tuning in. And I'll be back on the air, and we'll have Adriana back on at some point too, when she's ready. So your life is your life, and you move through it when you're ready, not when somebody else is ready. Enjoy. Have a great week. Keep drumming. Don't forget the Reiki Center at 7 p.m. this coming Saturday. Okay, drum circle for those of you who want to be there. I love you much. Be well. Take care. Ho'oponopono. Irisikwi. Oho. Patakuiasi.